Hello, Year 1 students. Welcome back to remote learning for TTC through radio lessons. To support continued learning, Rwanda Education Board is in partnership with UNICEF and other partners to support remote learning for all levels of education, including TTC. As usual, my name is Teacher Emma, and I'm going to be taking you through this lesson. Today, Year 1 students, we're still in the foundations of education, and we will be focusing on Unit 6, which is about setting learning objectives. Year 1 students, are you ready? Very good. My dear friends, before we go very far, I want to take this opportunity to remind you, stay home and follow the guidelines set to avoid the spread of coronavirus. And as usual, get your notebook and pen and always take note of all that you feel you need to write down. And I'm calling upon Year 2 and Year 3 students also to join us. This could be a revision for you in as far as this topic is concerned. My fellow tutors, please join us in this lesson as we learn about setting instructional objectives. And please support our students wherever you are if they have questions regarding the topic that we shall be looking at today. Perfect. Now, my friends, and today we are going to be learning about setting instructional objectives. Of course, this is in line with Unit 6 from the Year 1 syllabus, and we will learn what objectives are and why they are important, and the characteristics of objectives, so that you learn how to make one of your own. You have your notebook and pen? Very good. Now, to help us start thinking about the topic, I want you to listen to the following and be ready to reflect upon what you have heard. Are you ready? So friends, in our day-to-day life, we need to set goals of what we want to achieve, when to achieve them, and with what materials we need to achieve them. And again, with who can help us to be able to achieve them. For example, currently, Rwandans are becoming familiar working based on the performance contract known as imihigo. I hope you all know imihigo. Are we together, my friends? So, individuals and teams of people set out specific actions that they want to achieve by the end of the year. Then, at the end of the year, people evaluate to see if they achieved all that they had planned to do. Great. Now, let us reflect on what I shared. I'm going to read questions and then give you time to think and write down your ideas. Are you ready? My friends, in real life situations, why do we need to set objectives? I want you to write down that question. In real life situations, why do we need to set down objectives? Question 2. Give an example of an objective you have set in your life. I want you to write it down. Have you ever set an objective, or have you ever set yourself a target of something that you want to achieve after a certain period of time? Good. And what do you think is important? Why do you think it is important for teachers to set objectives for their lessons? Good. Did you come up with some good ideas? Well done. Remember that everyone needs to set objectives for his or her activities because it helps focus effort on a target with clear expected results. An objective is like a goal of something you want to achieve, but it is very specific and clear. I want you to imagine that you have an objective to attend a wedding of a family member. Now, imagine if you didn't know where the wedding will be held or where the wedding is going to be taking place from. So, there are so many things that you have to think into mind. Okay? So how do you find the right bus and plan ahead to ensure that you reach on time? If you don't know where you are going, you are likely to get there. You are unlikely to get there, And you are likely to waste a lot of time and money. And of course, you'll be confused. This is also true for teachers. Setting objectives helps a teacher clearly identify a target of what his or her students should know or able to do. So this helps the teacher make a lesson plan that will get students to achieve those specific things. Very good. Are we together, my friends? Of course, as a teacher, it is very important for us to know and for us to appreciate that setting objectives is one key thing that every teacher must put into consideration before teaching anything. Because you have to determine what you want to achieve and then design ways on how to achieve it. Now that we know a little bit about objectives, let us focus on learning objectives, which teachers set for their students or learners. As student teachers, this is very important skill that you need to develop, because along the way, you always need to be designing objectives. First of all, from what we have discussed, what is a learning objective? Can you write your idea down? Very good. Learning objectives are testable or verifiable statements that describe what you intend for your students to learn. I want to repeat the definition again, and please note it down. Learning objectives are testable or verifiable statements that describe what you intend for your students to learn. I'm giving you a few seconds to note it down. Learning objectives are testable or verifiable statements that describe what you intend your students to learn. Very good. Now, let us see why setting instructional objectives are important for teachers. I'm going to read a list of different ideas. Try to note a key word that I say, instructional objectives. Okay? Are we there? Now, before we go very far, always, as teachers, in developing the instructional materials, we need to set and design guidelines and also design instructional activities. In other words, it helps teachers to start lesson planning. The moment we identify the learning objectives that we want to work on, now that is the beginning of us starting to lesson plan. Because you already have a target of where you want or what you want to achieve. So, give direction to the learners and inspire learners to make better effort to attain their goals. In other words, it helps motivate learners. It is very important when our learners get to know where we are heading and why. State specifically what a student should be able to do. In other words, set a purpose for learning. Very clear. So, when we identify a learning objective, that learning objective straight away will highlight or point out the purpose as to why we are going to be learning. Very good. Enable the teacher. So, setting instruction objectives also enables the teacher to design appropriate assessment both during and after the learning process. In other words, it tells the teacher and students what evidence to look for to show that they have achieved what was planned. So, in other words, when we set clear and smart objectives, at the end of the day, on the side of the teacher, but also on the side of the learner, they all know what they are expected of at the end of the lesson. Objectives can be long-term and general, or short-term and specific. Often, teachers are given general objectives for their students in the curriculum or the syllabus that they use. Remember, I said we always have the guiding documents that we always have from the national level, and of course we have a curriculum and we have the syllabus. So in the syllabus, what we have there are the general objectives. However, teachers need to create their own specific objective for individual lessons or group of lessons. I am going to read examples of different objectives, and I would like you to listen carefully and try to identify if it is a general objective or specific objective. Are you ready? Let us begin. To acquire basic mathematical concepts required to solve everyday life problems. To acquire basic mathematics concepts required to solve everyday life problems. A student teacher will be able to use assessment results to improve learners' performance by making an education support plan. I want you to listen to these objectives. Another one, to model good values and professional ethics in teaching profession. Could you tell the difference? Okay? Now, let us review the correct answers. To acquire basic mathematics concepts required to solve everyday life problems, this is a general objective because it is very broad and long-term. Did you have your answer as general objectives? Very good. A student teacher will be able to use assessment results to improve learners' performance by making an education support plan. What is your answer? Is this specific or general? Nice. So the answer is specific because it is quite clear and precise. Remember, our aim is to use the assessment results to design a study support plan. So the other one was to model good values and professional ethics in the teaching profession. Of course, this is a general objective, my friends. Did you get them right? Good job. Now, let's look at specific parts of quality instructional objective. There is an American psychologist named Robert who developed a framework for preparing learning objective in 1960s. It is still useful today as an easy way to remember what to include in an instructional objective. Robert's framework is called ABCD model. Each letter stands for one component that an instructional objective must have. Are we together, my friends? Good. For A, remember A, B, C, D. A for audience. Who will be performing the behavior? It must be addressed to the learner. Remember, when we set objectives, by the end of the lesson, learners should be able, so in other words, we've already specified the audience. Now, B for behavior. Are you writing them down, students? Good. What behavior or action should the learner be able to show? It must specify what learners will do. If we say, by the end of the lesson, learners should be able to use skill ABCD learned in solving a problem. So here we are trying to identify the action that they should be able to take after being taken through this. C. C is for condition. Under what condition do you want the learners to be able to do it? It must be, again, specific. What will they use? What equipment, what tools do we have that they may or may not be utilized in the completion of the behavior or the activity? D, degree. It states the standard for acceptable performance in terms of time terms of accuracy, and in terms of quality. Because remember, when we set these objectives, these are sometimes 40 minutes objectives, 1 hour objectives that you set to be achieved at the end of the lesson. So remember, when we talked of Robert's framework, and of course, these are the ABC model, which is up to now still in use. That's what we are using. So the ABC, so A we've seen is the audience, B we've seen the behavior, C we've seen the condition, D we've seen the degree. Okay, now let us review the keywords in the ABC model of Robert. A stands for audience. And who is the audience? The students. B stands for the behavior. What is it? Is that the knowledge? Is that the skills that you want them to achieve? C stands for the condition. Under what condition? If we were setting that objective, in order for us to achieve it, what tools do we need to have? And D, it's the degree. Are we together, my friends? So the time span, the time aspect, and the quality of the expected behavior at the end of the lesson. Now, I want us to try and apply this model when looking at the example of an instructional objective that I'm going to read to you. Please listen carefully and try to find all the 4 elements: audience, behavior, condition, and the degree. Okay, so given a sheet of paper or a pencil, a ruler, a protractor, the learner should be able to construct a right angle triangle accurately in less than 10 minutes. Let me read again. Given a sheet of paper, a pencil, a ruler, and a protractor, the learner should be able to construct a right angle triangle accurately in less than 10 minutes. My friends, I want you to find the 4 elements. Do you remember them? Audience, behavior. Are we there? Condition and degree. Good. Did you find the 4 elements? So audience. So who is the audience? That is the target of the objective, the learner. When it comes to B, what is expected behavior or action? Of course, they will be constructing a right angle triangle. Condition. What materials are they going to be using? A compass, a pencil, protractor. And to the degree, what is the standard expected? Accurate, remember, and done in how many minutes? 10. Well done, my friends. So, my friends, before we really conclude our lesson today, I want to remind you, and as a teacher, it is very important that every time you think of teaching, the first thing that should always come into our mind, it should be setting instructional objective or learning objective. And the learning objective must always follow the ABCD model, which is audience, behavior, condition, and degree. Are we together, my friends? Soon when you do the teaching practice, you will be required to construct learning objectives. So as you construct the learning objectives, always put into mind, what is your target group? What is the level of the children that you are going to be teaching? And what is it that you want them to learn? That is the behavior. And under what condition? What materials do you need to have at hand in order for you to achieve your objective? Perfect. And again, in terms of degree, what standards are you setting? That at the end of the day, you want to be able to see as a result that will help you to know that learning has taken place. Now, my friends, as we come to the end of our lesson, I want us to review some of the key points that we learned today in our lesson about setting learning objectives. Remember, we said learning objectives are testable. We test them. They are verifiable statements that describe what you intend for your students to learn. Learning objectives are very important for teachers. They help them set a clear direction so that they can plan lessons, motivate learners, communicate purpose for learning, and determine what evidence they will look for when assessing if the target of learning has been met. My friends, learning objective should be specific and detailed with the 4 elements, which can be easily remembered as the ABCD. A, audience. B, behavior. C, condition. D, degree. Now, I am going to give you a homework assignment to try and apply what we have just talked about. I would like you to try and write your own example of a learning objective and ensure that it has all the 4 components. You remember? The audience, the behavior, the condition, and the degree. My friends, our lesson today has come to an end. Student teachers and parents, thank you for your participation in this lesson. Again, this lesson was developed by Rwanda Education Board in collaboration with UNICEF, Help a Child, Right to Play, and Inspire, Educate, and Empower Rwanda. Until next time, goodbye.